In the realm of Summerland, it has been the custom for many centuries to send the children of the warrior lords to the monastery of Kai. There they were taught the skills and disciplines of their noble fathers. You are Lone Wolf, a young initiate who was learning the secret skills of the Kai lords. 2 days ago, your peaceful country was plunged into war when a vast Dark Lord army suddenly invaded Summerland and destroyed the Kai monastery. As the last of the Kai lords, you vowed to avenge your brothers. Your first task was to warn the king. Your journey to Homegard, the capital, was perilous. But despite the many dangers, you fought your way through to the capital and delivered your warning to the king's court. You were greatly praised for your bravery and were entrusted with a crucial task: to save your country. There remained only one power in all of Magnamund that can save your people from the Dark Lords: the Summer's Word, the Sword of the Sun. After the defeat of Vashna, mightiest of the Dark Lords, slain upon the sword wielding by King Ulnar of Summerland, the Summer's Word had been bestowed upon the allies of Duranor as a mark of trust between the two kingdoms. In return, King Elen of Duranor gave Summerland a magnificent golden ring bearing the arms of his realm. This ring is known as the Seal of Hammerdal. It meant that if ever the Shadow of the West should rise again to threaten Summerland, Duranor would come to the aid of her ally. The king has given you the Seal of Hammerdal. Your quest is to travel to Duranor to fetch the Summer's Word back. But meanwhile, the enemy have broken through the outer defenses to the capital and are preparing to besiege the city wall. The king's word keeps coming back to you. 40 days, Lone Wolf. We have strength to stand against them for only 40 days. This is the quay, my lord, says the captain of the guard. There is your ship, the Green Scepter. As he speaks, the driver points across the quay to a sleek trade caravel anchored near the harbor wall. You demonstrate your Kai discipline of animal kinship. Using your Kai discipline, you order the two mice to bring the cheese to you. The sailor looks on in amazement as the two furry creatures deposit the cheese at your feet and then scurry away. A door crashes open behind you, and you turn to see 3 harbor thugs advancing towards you. Each is armed with a scimitar, and you have no choice but to fight all 3 of them. You leave Captain Kelman to go up on deck just in time to see the outline of Homegard on the horizon. With mixed feelings of pride and apprehension, you descend the stairway to your cabin as the last spire of the capital disappears from view. The following morning, you are woken by the cry of seagulls as they wheel and soar above the clipper. That's Manon, the southernmost island of the London chain, says the captain, pointing toward the sharp rocky coastline in the distance. As this land beast descends on the Green Scepter, a net of shrieking Gyaks crashes onto the deck behind you. Some are crushed in the fall, but many more have survived and waste no time attacking you. As the pirates clamber aboard, you are horrified to see the black-clad shape of the Dracaram warrior in the midst. He is advancing toward you, a large broadsword raised above his head. Captain Kelman unlocks a display case and removes a Samor board. The beautifully carved playing pieces are already in position when he carefully sets it down upon the table. On the afternoon of the 4th day, you are talking with an injured sailor up on the deck when you see smoke seeping from the hold. The captain opens the mysterious bundle and tips the contents onto his cabin table. A large, charred, earthenware jug and several blackened rags drop into a heap. This was no accidental fire, he says solemnly. This was an act of sabotage. The boat has seen your distress signal and is headed toward you. It is a small fishing boat from the port of Ragadorn. The fishermen are a rough-looking bunch, but they wrap you in a warm blanket and offer you some food. When you are only 50 yards offshore, you slip into the waves and swim towards land. You walk for over 3 hours along the lonely coast road before night begins to fall. You decide to spend the night in the safety of a large leafy tree at the edge of the road. In the morning, you can see in the distance a wagon heading toward you. Inside the coach, it is warm and dry. Shaking the rain from your kite cloak, you notice 3 other passengers on board. 2 women and a man who is snoring loudly. One of the women looks up and smiles. "We should reach Ragadorn in 6 hours," she says. The few inhabitants of Ragadorn that you see appear a cheerless lot, their faces haggard and drawn. They shuffle through the gloom, hunched against the pouring rain, their eyes fixed on the cobblestones at their feet. You follow the street until it turns eastward into Beggar's Lane. You can see how the street got its name, for there are scores of ragged men, women, and children huddling in doorways, all holding out their begging bowls. You notice a sign hanging outside a small shop. You enter and ask how you can reach Doranor. The cluttered window of a shop to your left catches your attention. In the window are many useful items, all of which bear a price tag. You follow the street as it turns east into Oxyoke Way. To your left is another entrance to Ragadorn Trading Post. Before that, you notice a smaller shop with a sign above the door. You enter a magnificent hall in which are displayed some of the finest goods of northern Magnamund. Even at this late hour, the trading post is busy, as captains and rich merchants haggle over the sale or exchange of their cargoes. You stare in awe at the variety of merchandise. Silk and spices from the opulent bazaars of Vazagonia, jewels from the mines of Bor, the finest weapons and armor from the smithies of Duranor, furs from the Brumalark of Kalt, cloth from Cloatia, and all kinds of food and drink cover the tables. When you are certain that the angry mob has passed, you jump from the hay wain and run stealthily along the street, dodging from one shadow to the next. To your left, there is a shop with a sign above the door. A large man dressed in a leather apron is busily sharpening a fine broadsword. He bids you good evening and offers you the blade. 30 yards along the left side of the street, you hear the sound of merriment drifting out of a large ramshackle building. There is a creaking sign above the door. The tavern is full of brigands and drunks, the good-for-nothing crews of trading ships moored at the jetty, all singing and drinking while some try their strength at arm wrestling. A grim-looking sailor is challenging all comers to an arm wrestling contest. The innkeeper is a mountain of a man, completely bald and with large gold rings hanging from each ear. He looks at you suspiciously and says, "Aye, is 1 gold crown. A bed for the night is 2. At one end of a long table, an attractive young woman spins a black dish divided into 10 sections. As the dish spins, she drops a small silver ball into it. Several merchants are seated around the table, and they are betting heavily on the fall of the silver ball. You awake at dawn to the sound of heavy rain falling on the cobbled streets outside. You are standing opposite a large building with a sign on the wall. Ragadorn Stables and Coach Station. A green-clad coachman is sitting next to a notice board that reads, "Port backs. Journey time, 7 days." During the course of the afternoon's journey, you chat with your fellow travelers and learn about their backgrounds. At dusk, the coach reaches an inn on the coast road of Port Backs. For 2 days and nights, the coach follows the trade route across the wildlands. There is only one inn at the village of Gorn Cove, a tavern known as the Forlorn Hope. Its state of disrepair is typical of all the other hovels in this poor sea village. The innkeeper is carrying a tray of hot food. "With the compliments of one of your friends," he says, and leaves before you can ask which one. By the time you reach the bar, the others are all seated at a large table, awaiting your appearance. Drawing closer to the table, you realize you have found your would-be assassin. You will have to attack without giving any warning to your enemy, so study your fellow travelers carefully, and then make your decision. You spur the horse along the twisting village street, across a wooden bridge and up a steep path toward the crest of the cove. In the light of the moon, you catch a glimpse of a signpost pointing eastwards. You ride all night without sleep. As the dawn breaks, you are greeted by a startling change of landscape. The barren wildlands have given way to moors and waterlogged fens, and a dark shadow runs the length of the eastern horizon for as far as the eye can see. This is the Duernar Forest, the natural frontier of the Mountain Kingdom, where it borders the untamed wildlands. The road bears eastward and enters the trees at a point where a large wooden tower has been built. You can see the silhouette of a soldier on guard. In the distance, you spot a bridge that spans the dark water at a narrow point. At dusk, on the 10th day of your quest, you reach the magnificent city of Port Bax. You enter through an unguarded gate in the green city wall, and make your way through the darkening streets toward the harbor. You can see that the cobbled street ends at a high stone wall. There is a large red gate in this wall, and it is guarded by 2 soldiers. Beyond the gate, you can make out the mass of ships moored in the harbor. You enter a large room full of ledgers and files. A man wearing the uniform of a Duranese naval officer is seated opposite at a large desk. The soldier salutes and allows you to pass through the red gate. You walk into an open square lit by the tall beacons lining the quarry side. To your relief, you sight the marble pillars of the Summerland consulate and the familiar sun flag of your country flying above it in the fresh night breeze. You are ushered inside and taken immediately to the envoy of Summerland, Lord Lieutenant Rygar. You are soon to learn that this is an exceptional man. For 3 days and nights, you have ridden along the highway as it follows its route up the river valley of the Duernar. In the distance are the peaks of the Hammerdale Mountains, one of the highest ranges in all of Magnamund. The capital lies at the very center of those mountains. The cloaken riders remain where they are. "If you do not care for reason, perhaps our swords will turn your tails," says Rygar. He draws his sword and orders his men to attack. One of the cloaked strangers removes a black staff from beneath his robes and holds it aloft. A blue flame ignites at the twist iron tip, and a searing blast of energy leaps towards you. There is a deafening crack as the bolt is turned away by Rygar's shield. By nightfall, you have reached the entrance to Tarnalin, the western tunnel through the Hammerdale Mountains. You have been walking for half an hour when you see a strange creature on top of a wagon on the road ahead. It is 2 feet high and resembles an overgrown marsh rat. A large nudnik, wearing a brightly colored cloak of patchwork silks, orders several of his people to arm themselves and drive you out of the hall. Suddenly, from out of the darkness, there is a blood-chilling cry. You find yourself staring into the glowing eyes of a Helghast. A detachment of 10 soldiers, led by a knight whose shield bears the arms of Duernar, advances towards you. The knight steps forward and raises the visor of his helm. "Who are you? What is your purpose in Tarnalin?" he demands in a gruff voice. It is early morning on the 15th day of your quest when you open your eyes to the magnificent spectacle of Hammerdal, the mountain city. The encircling peaks offer a natural protection to the people within. Take the sword, Lone Wolf. It is foretold that only a true son of Summerlin can release the powers that lie within its blade, says King Alan. You raise the blade above your head, where a shaft of sunlight suddenly catches upon its very tip and floods the chamber with a blinding white glow. At that moment, the true power of the Summer's Word is revealed to you. It is early in the morning on the 33rd day of your quest, when you ride into Port Bax with Lord Axum at your side. The preparations for war have been completed. The galleons of the Duranese war fleet lie at anchor in the harbor, impatiently waiting the order to set sail for Summerland. For 3 days and nights, the mighty fleet of Duranor steers swiftly toward the home Gulf, a strong wind filling the sails of the warships. With the dawning of the new day, a veil of sea fog has rolled across the still ocean from broken spine of land known as the Curlondon Isles. The black ships approach swiftly through the fog, a huge ram protruding from its black prow. As it rips its way through the hull of the Duranor, you hear the Admiral's last desperate order: "Abandon ship!" Suddenly, a flash of searing flame shoots from a tower at the rear of the back ship and explodes into the side of a Duranese warship less than 50 yards away. You watch with horror as soldiers leap from the deck, their clothes and hairs in flames. The sorcerer is standing in the far corner of the tower, his left hand pointing at your head. "Your quest has failed, Lone Wolf." A blinding flash of orange flame shoots from his hand toward your face. Blinking the foul water from your eyes, you can see that the flagship of the evil fleet is now ablaze. Black smoke is pouring from the decks, and the tongues of the orange and yellow flame flicker from its rotten black hull. 70 Duranese warships left Port Bax, but only 50 now enter the home Gulf. It is dusk on the 37th day of your quest when you sight the spires of Homeguard on the horizon. The city still stands defiantly against the army of Dark Lords, although constantly under siege. You lower the Summer's Word and point the blade toward the tent of Lord Zagarna. There is a mighty roar as the power of the Sun Sword is unleashed in a searing white beam. The tent explodes, and a brilliant fireball of white flame mushrooms skyward. A long and terrible cry rends in the air. It is Lord Zagarna. The leader of the evil army is no more. Gripped with fear and panic, the vast black army rises up and run in chaos from the city wall. The impossible has happened. Their invincible master is slain. Again, the Summer's Ward has returned to defeat them. The army and the allies of Duranor ride out of the city gates in pursuit of the enemy as they run blindly toward the Durancrag Mountains. The victory is yours, Homeguard is saved, and the murder of the Kai has finally been avenged.